General Robert E. Lee at your service, sir.
Welcome to the BeerNBugout podcast. It's your host with the most, Finding Nemo, aka Nemo Hose. I'm just kidding. I'm Dank Williams Jr.
BeerNBugout, the man who got removed from Instagram for being just a little too spicy.
Multiple times.
And I have one of my old followers here with us, General Robert E. Lee, who is a...
How y'all doing?
And,
as well as I have the glorious honor of being banned from Discord 18 times. I don't know. Go on.
What were the reasons specifically? Okay, I'm actually listening.
So honestly, political servers, Confederate servers, shit like that. We had incidents with so I used to be in a shit ton of like shitpost servers, you know, like political servers, shit like that. And there was just one server that I was in a lot, where it was literally just a Civil War like discussion server, and people just didn't like us, and we would keep getting reported and whatnot. What people would do is they would post. I don't know if I can't actually say what this is for reasons. But, you can just bleep it out. People would post child in the servers. That way they could get us wiped off. That's what people would do. Yeah.
That is incredibly up.
Yeah, you don't say.
You're committing a felony simply to get that shit taken down.
Yeah, that's what people would do.
That is insane butthurt levels. Like just because y'all were discussing
insane liberal moments.
Literally insane liberal moments.
Yeah, and we would also get taken down from just stuff like that. Every now and then, like there would be just a small violation of TOS, something like that. And then there were other servers I was in, obviously. Things would happen.
So you had your Discord taken down 18 times?
Yep.
Man, I only had it once.
Only had it once. Lucky you.
Yeah.
Okay, Robert. Or Bob. Or
anyway.
General Lee.
Yes, go ahead. Just call me Lee. Call me Lee.
Lee.
He is General Lee.
I am the General Lee. Anyway, go on.
Okay, so pertaining to bugging out, what kind of gear do you take with you when you're out on your reenactments?
So I do Civil War reenactments. So I have, my kit and all. I do both Union and Confederate, so I'll list them both off separately. So I have. I'll post pictures of this later. That way you can put them up and whatnot. I have.
How the hell are people on a podcast going to see the pictures?
I'm used to doing watching podcasts on YouTube, so I didn't think about that. I'm stupid. Anyway,
bro, this is going up on Spotify.
DM me the images. I could figure out a way to edit it in.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, you can definitely figure out a way to edit it in YouTube. On YouTube.
Wait. Yeah, if we did YouTube, like we had a thing up, and
I listen to Spotify.
Oh yeah, but I'll do that later because
I don't see anything.
I suppose that one way that you could do it is to simply upload it on Spotify and then screen record yourself listening to it on Spotify.
I am a visual learner.
Literally.
Exactly, my friend. What? Oh,
literally just do that.
I am a visual learner, my friend. Anyway, let me get back to the topic. So, pretty much we have an undershirt, which is just a light flannel shirt or something like that. Not flannel, sorry. Just not like it's got that like flannel like look on it for mine at least. It's really light, very you know what I mean. And then you have your wool pants, which get really hot. Those have suspenders attached to them. Then you have your overcoat. Well, not an overcoat. You have your coat. You have a sack coat. That's the regular coat that you use. For Yankee, I have a blue one. For Rebel, I have like a brown one. There's different types of material you can get, like jean wool and whatnot. Which jean wool is horrible. it's just the name of the coat. It's the coat. It's just like a blue wool coat with one pocket on the inside. And it has like 5-ish buttons, big brass buttons.
Okay.
You can look up a picture if y'all are interested in that. Then we, like I said, we have our pants, and then we have the worst shoes in the world, known as a brogan. Go ahead and look those up. You'll see what I mean by they're horrible. Look up Civil War brogans. The sole is horrendous, and like on the inside of the shoe, the sole is horrendous. They just suck to walk around and they hurt your feet. I have Dr. Scholl's inserts in mine.
PlayStation 1 shoe design.
Doesn't it? Yeah, but I have Dr. Scholl's mine.
Well, I looked up Civil War brogans, and all I got is modern brogans, and they don't look that bad. I imagine that a more minimalist one.
Modern brogans.
What I mean is, I got hiking boots. Is what popped up.
Hold on.
Hiking boots popped up.
Let me see what comes up.
Bro,
if you put in Civil War brogans, the first thing that comes up, like the one.
When I put in Civil War brogans.
Images.
Well, there's. I was looking at shopping.
That's why you have to hit images.
I see them now.
Yeah, they're horrendous to wear, and they're flat soled. So if you step on a tile floor or on blacktop, it's a slip and slide. And then we also ever had our kepi. I wear kepi. Some guys wear slouch hats, or not slouch hat, a forage cap for Union. When I do Confederate, I have a different kind of hat. But anyway, we have so that's our base clothing that we're wearing around camp or when we go out.
Hey, this is now that it's the brand. It's very active. You probably know this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only type of footwear that they had back then to wear?
Well, there would be
soldiers. I imagine for sure they're all the
issue to the soldiers.
Yeah, I imagine for sure there was definitely just
there would be private purchase shoes, obviously.
Yeah.
But that was the only one issued to your regular.
That's horrible.
That's regular.
Horrible.
Private, yeah, it's horrendous to walk in,
bro.
And now you figure these guys are marching hundreds of miles, because especially you figure like those regiments, because you know how the South had a horrible railway. You figure those regiments that a Tennessee regiment, for example, a Tennessee regiment going to Gettysburg, that had to be horrible. And anyway, most of the Rebs they couldn't afford shoes. And when they could, your shoes are going to wear out quickly. So a lot of times sometimes you see reenact the Rebs without shoes on in the summer, which I got to give them props. I wouldn't do that shit. But you also have your cavalry boots, and officers would also have boots,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, with your field gear, so your combat gear, you have a cartridge box, which is it's all leather. It's a black box that hangs around your ass that has a large it has a large hoop on it that goes over your head on the other side, so it rests on your shoulder. Then over that that'll go over that belt. You have a belt with a lead-filled brass plate buckle on it, and it has a belt keeper on it. On that belt, you have your cap pouch, which is where you keep your percussion caps, and then you have your bayonet. And then after that, you have your haversack, which your haversack is a cloth, just a cloth sack. Sometimes it's tarred over, so it's it has a strange texture to it, and it's black when it's tarred over. You'll keep your personal food items in that, or other personal belongings, and normally you'll hang your mug on the outside of that. You'll keep your mess kit in there, you get an actual plate, fork, spoon, knife. I actually have original Civil War forks that are in great condition, but then of course you obviously have your you have your rifle. Now your rifle, if you're a Yankee, it'll be either Most commonly, it's an 1861 Springfield rifle. Sometimes you get an 1858 or one of the ones that are one of the 1830 Springfields that were converted to percussion from flintlock. And then there's, I can go on about this, but anyway, those rifles, the reenactor rifles are normally anywhere from 9 to 11 pounds. Mine's 11 pounds, but the original ones were like 7 to 8. It has to do with the density of the iron and the wood and the whatnot. Because most of these guns are exported from Europe. So our guns are normally heavier. It is. It's horrible to be walking such long. I've almost collapsed of a heat stroke. Like, it's horrendous, honestly. But it's fun. Then, then when you get to... Oh, go on, yeah.
Better rifles than the Rebs, I'm assuming?
Well, it depends. It depends on the Reb, depends on the regiment. So normally your standard Rebel infantryman, they'll have either a captured 1861 Springfield or some captured Yankee gun. You'll have your 1858 Enfield rifle, which is a 69 caliber, although they do come in 58.
69?
69 caliber. 69 caliber, yeah. The 51, the 1861 Springfield is 58. So they're big rounds. They're big ass rounds.
That's why
them. But
I'm pretty sure that you know this.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't saying it because it's a big ass caliber. I was saying it because it's a nice number.
You don't fucking say. Anyway, with your Reb
what caliber is your rifle?
guns.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly, man. Anyway, you'll have with the Rebels. You also have what's sometimes called a buck and ball regiment, which instead of using a Manabal, they'll have a Manabal, and then they'll have 3 round shotgun shot in the barrel. Hence buck and ball, which normally those regiments will be flintlock. I don't know why, but you also would get random rebels who would have flintlock rifles in the war. There's also, of course, the different repeaters that were coming out around the time, like the Spencer rifle, the Spencer carbine. If you've ever heard of that, it's it's in Red Dead 2.
It's the carbine, it's the starter carbine that you get in Red Dead 2.
Mm-hmm. And Red Dead 2.
It's also the fucking lever action that Lincoln shot on the lawn of the White House once.
Yes, it is. That's issued to cavalry though, and I can go on and on about the weaponry, but I'm not, because it goes that weaponry was interesting weaponry at the time.
Do y'all use repeaters in the reenactments?
Say again? The cavalry guys will. But then again, you also see cavalry guys with musketoons, which is a musket, but just carbine sized. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just a short musket.
It's a sawed off. It's below 16 inches. ATF's gonna break in your door.
Exactly, my friend. But then again, the nice thing about Civil War reenacting, the black powder reenacting with muzzle loaders, they're not firearms.
Really not firearms, yeah.
That's why miners can go do Civil War reenacting and Rev War reenacting, because they're not firearms. But these rifles are expensive. Normally, exactly, you'll get these rifles anywhere from $600 to $1,200. I got mine for $250, and it came with my tent. I got a killer deal. Yeah.
What?
And then
I ain't never seen a muzzle loader cost that. What?
Yeah, they went up, dude. It's because they're bought up. Because of what they are, they're bought up.
That's.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I'm processing.
And these are the reproduction ones. You want to get in the original. Originals are expensive as balls, dude.
I'm sure they are, because that's a fucking original, but it's just, motherfucker. I could go
I'll
get
give you a minute to process.
I could get something to hunt with for a whole hell of a lot cheaper than that.
You don't say.
What? Why? Why?
Yeah. Anyway, now with Rebel uniforms and all, you have sometimes there's no real way to describe Rebel uniform because you have your standard uniform, then you have the ragtag uniforms, which are a lot more common, which would be normally you'll have sky blue pants that were taken off some dead Yankee, you'll have either butternut gray or some tan, some brown coat. And of course, the left setup, like the leather setup that I described earlier with your belt and your cartridge box, that's all the same. Because they were using the same doctrine. Because they were part of the same country, so they're using all that same stuff. And then obviously hats are different and whatnot. But so yeah, there's that for you. But there's a lot more to reenacting if you want to know more.
So, like, how do you guys get fires started?
What do you mean?
Like, do you guys ever camp out overnight during the
I think what he's saying is, do you be out there?
Yes, we do. We camp. A lot of times we camp because normally they're on the weekends and they're 2-day events. So
I think what he meant was like, how do you start the fire? Like, do you use a lighter or do you have to use like matches?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter because with things like that.
Or a Zippo.
I myself prefer a Zippo because that's just who I am. Because I don't like those shitty little plastic lighters. You gotta have a real lighter that you carry around in your pocket, you know what I'm saying?
Fair.
Like a nice heavy duty one. But anyway, with the camps, I want you to look up pictures of Civil War reenactor camps. Because it's just rows of tents, then you have at the top, each row is called a company street. So you'll have, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's different streets belong to different companies. Normally, reenactors, the way that we set it up is different from the way they were back then when we get to our unit organization. Because normally we do companies, which are normally 20 to 30 men. But back then, a company was 100 men. Regiments are normally maybe 50 men. Back then, a regiment was 1,000 men. But the way it's set up, you have company streets, then you have a divider where you have the fires, which is at the top of the company streets, the beginnings. Then on the other side of those, you have pretty much you would take the company streets and you would turn them, and then you have your officer rows, where it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the rows of the officers' tents. But camp life, let me tell you, camp is always where the funniest shit happens. Like I was at a reenactment in September. A lot of alcohol involved as it gets late at night. They were talking. Some guy was recounting the story from a few years ago at our reenactment that involved eating an Oreo cookie out of a Reb's ass cheeks.
What?
I shit you not. The weirdest conversations go on, man.
Okay, so have you ever found anything interesting during a reenactment?
During a reenactment, I personally haven't located anything interesting. I've had interesting things happen to me and whatnot, but if you want to talk about finding things, I have a friend who was doing this small reenactment in Virginia. He was walking around the battlefield, and he was walking around the battlefield before the battle, like a few hours before, and he trips. Okay, so he figures it must be a root, but he checks. He tripped on a bayonet half sticking out of the ground.
What?
which is quite the find. You know, actually, I found out that my reenactor bayonet, the one that I used, that I thought was reproduction, turns out it's original, which is quite something. The only reason I know is because my captain pointed out to me when we were doing a parade. He pointed out to me the maker's mark on my bayonet, which that bayonet's worth like $300 now because it's an original. Repros are like 100. No, repros are more like 50. I don't really know. I haven't had to buy one because the one I have came with my rifle.
How much was your rifle?
Oh, let me answer this question. My rifle came with my tent and my bayonet and scabbard for $250 altogether. I got a really good deal.
And is the rifle reproduction?
The rifle is
or
reproduction,
did you just like? I was about to say, but either way, you fucking absolutely made off like a bandit. That is some highway robbery right there.
Great deal, because those tents are also expensive. Dude,
no, I'm too Jewish for that, bro. You ain't got to censor that. I'm literally part Jew.
Dude, you'll fall. Then you might just fall fire.
Anyways,
speaking of last reenactment I was talking about, like in September, the Friday night, a guy fell in the fire twice because he was that fucking drunk. The first time he was leaning forward on his chair, and then he like slipped and somebody caught him before he hit the fire. And the second time, it happened again, but this time his hands went directly on logs, burning logs, and then someone pulled him out. So they sent him to the hospital, and they said, you know, best to go there.
That way it doesn't get all fucked up. To the infirmary tent.
No, they sent him to the hospital. And then the next day, but this is the best part is, the next day they sent us pictures of the guy's hands. He has penis fingers now.
Oh god!
The tips of his fingers are all swollen. He looks like he has penis fingers. I shit you not. Like, when I say they're swollen, I mean they're swollen to the point where he can't put his finger on a trigger guard anymore. That's how bad it is. But
it'll heal.
Yeah,
probably.
Eventually,
yeah, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Perhaps.
Mm-hmm. You got more questions?
I'm thinking. What do you guys make for food when reenacting?
Depends. There's just one regiment, the 28th Pennsylvania. They're great guys. What they do is, I was there for the creation of these three dishes the first times. For breakfast is this, for lunch is that, for dinner is the other thing. Those are the real names of the dishes. So you have this, that, and the other thing. They're all
nice.
So what this is it'll be eggs and let me explain first. They have giant skillets that are like 3 feet across.
Oh.
So you'll throw a shit ton of eggs in there. You throw in sausages, meats, yada yada yada, and then they soak it with beer.
So that's this.
That's
now
this.
What's that?
Then that is rice, potatoes, and an assortment of meats. Some exotic, like the last time I was with them, we had zebra in there, as well as wild boar. You know, then you have your beef cubes and whatnot, and venison. And then they soak that.
How the hell do you even go about getting zebra in a Civil War reenactment?
I don't know. Then they soak that with beer too. Then the other thing is pretty much that, but a hell of a lot heavier. So that's what this, that, and the other thing are. But you know, other regiments will have different things. Like you'll have just marinated chicken that you'll throw in a pan, put that on the fire. People can make coffee. It's
So nobody is out there actually just nobody is actually out there just chilling with some hardtack.
No, people chill with hardtack. People make their own hardtack. People make their own. I haven't tried any hardtack yet. I've heard it's shit, but people haven't.
I imagine it is shit.
So food. Sometimes they'll do shit like order a pizza, because why the fuck not? It just depends, you know. You can cook anything.
Bro, could you imagine delivering a pizza to the middle of the woods to a bunch of Confederates?
Yeah. You know how lit that'd be? Imagine you're a pizza delivery boy, you're like, and you get
the address is somewhere in the middle of the woods, and you just show up, and it's a bunch of Confederates.
You show up. No. You're no. You're driving through the woods, and you pull up, and then a bunch of Confederates jump out in front of you.
Imagine being a BLACK pizza delivery driver in that house.
If I was a pizza driver, I would just go, "Pizza for General Lee." That's what I would say. Like,
no, imagine being a black pizza delivery driver and you drive into the woods to deliver pizza,
no.
A bunch of Confederate soldiers jump out. Like,
dude. No, so when I do rebel stuff, the black people love us. I shit you not, they love us. They honestly love the fact that we actually come out. They love it. A lot of times they're asking for pictures. They're really into it. And then again, every now and then, if you're walking around in public and you play some, like last Saturday, I was walking around with my friends. We were in uniform because we're at this old Civil War site. We were just fucking around. It wasn't no event or anything. We passed these two black guys, and I say, "Hey, how are you?" And they stop dead in their tracks and they just stare at me. They just stare. So, and they smelled like weed, and we were near Baltimore, so.
Do you think it could just be that they were high as trying to figure out why there were two people from the 1800s just staring at them and asking them how they are?
Could be. Could be that.
Super controversial. I can guarantee you Confederate.
Well, you can edit it out.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not even controversial. That's just a fact, motherfucker.
Just some of them, some reenactors.
I thought you was about to say something like really based in racist, but you decided just to say something common sense.
Yeah. Obviously, during a reenactment, though, no weed.
I thought you was about to get yourself banned off of your own podcast.
You have been removed from the BeerNBugout podcast. Surrender your beer.
Surrender your beer.
Give us your bug.
Surrender your beer.
Dude, whenever we get a guest in here and we gotta throw him out, that's what we need to tell him. It's just surrender your beer and your badge. Out. Give us your beer and your badge.
I'm thinking of having this as like the second or third one, and Dane and I will do one together tomorrow night.
Instead of the first one, because this is really just about reenactment for the most part.
Oh god.
Well, this is
this is just reenactions.
It still is, yeah. Any more questions? Because I have a lot of experiences and shit.
Okay, just Dane, do you have any questions?
Do you have any funny stories?
Yes.
Of course I do. Why wouldn't I?
Actually, here's a good question. Do you prefer being Confederate or Union?
That's a good question. I like them both a lot, but I'm going to say Confederate. Reason being is because my Confederate regiment, there are some crazy motherfuckers. It's never done them.
That's what I figured. Is that the Confederacy is just more fun?
This is the first year. Well, it depends on the regiment. Depends on people. But this is the first year. Other question you just asked with any funny stories. So the first night that I met my rebel regiment, this was in October at a reenactment. So I was walking around with these guys. I've talked to them for a while, and because this event was held by a town for their fair or whatever. So we were walking around this town in the middle of the night, and we're walking, we're talking. The captain, guess what? He orders us like he's obviously joking around with the orders, but he orders us. You ever do that thing where you where you pretend to bring up a line between two sides of the street so people stop? We do that.
No.
So you have one person on one side of the street and one person on the other, and you both back up at the same time, pretend like you're holding something.
So basically, you
cars-
pretend like you're holding an invisible thing.
You pretend like you're holding a wire across it. It's f***ing funny. Because you get these people that get really pissed off to roll down the windows and go, "What the f*** is wrong with you?" You know, shit like that. So we were doing that, and then my captain, when people went by, he started eating some flower pots outside people's houses while staring at them. That's what he started doing. It's funny as
So this
no,
man
guy,
was he
this is the
on
funniest
anything at the
guy I
time?
know. No, this is just the funniest guy I know.
So he was just doing crackhead antics while sober, based.
While dressed in Confederate uniform, yeah. Walking through a town in New Jersey.
Like,
Don't go on to the story. The story doesn't end. The story doesn't
Beer,
end.
you might be right. I might actually be considering it now.
You would love this, dude. Anyway, then we're walking, and we get to an intersection. That's this intersection. B, are you here?
Yeah.
No, he died.
Because I'm laughing.
Okay. We get to this intersection, and there's a traffic cone in the middle of the intersection. And my captain turns to me and goes, "I bet you $5 I won't go in the middle of that intersection, put the traffic cone on my head, and dance around like a dumbass." And I said, "All right, bet." And he goes out in the intersection. He grabs a traffic cone, but instead of doing that, he puts it over his over that area, and he starts banging people's cars with it as they go by. That's what he starts doing. He starts just banging people's cars and moaning as he does it. It's the funniest thing, dude.
How did he not?
Then we're walking back to camp, and this guy, I don't know, man. This guy, he also had a live Claymore when he did Vietnam War reenacting, and he painted it blue, and then somebody stole it, thinking it was a dummy, and blew themselves up with it.
Okay, we're good.
What?
We're gonna need a second episode from
How
you.
the f did you get a live Claymore?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
I mean, it's America. So.
I'll tell you more stories about that guy. That guy,
Dude, he
he's
must
like
have
my
like the
favorite person.
He must have like those cartel connections or some shit to get that.
Nah, man, this guy's something, but
We need to get on one of these episodes.
don't know if
I
we
got
should
more
call him that.
funny stories here you want me to go on.
No, continue.
You want me to go on with more stories?
Talk about anything you want, honestly. This is
All
very
right.
interesting.
Alright, fine. We need to get Voss. That's better. He probably
Anyway.
wouldn't even agree to join.
So, actually, I'm sorry.
Let me go on with this.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What kind of tents do y'all make?
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't make them. We buy them from sutlers that make them. But well, some people make their own, but they're fucking. So it depends on the person. I have a dog tent. It's just a tent. It's just a cloth tent, like a canvas tent, that has rope loops on it. You put up sticks that hold it up. You have 3 sticks, one on each side, then a ridge pole. It's as simple as a tent you can get. So under that you have, it's kind of low to the ground a bit, but under that you have, so like on the floor of that tent you'll put in, obviously there's no floor, it's just grass. So what you do is you have this thing called a gum blanket. GUM, gum blanket, which is a piece of rubberized canvas, which they had this back then. A piece of rubberized canvas that you throw on the ground. That way you stop yourself from getting really cold in groundwater and whatnot. Then then obviously in your tent you'll have, you might have tent flaps on. I only have a flap on the back of my tent, but you have tent flaps. I just have wool blankets that I throw over my like modern shit, what you call Farby shit that wasn't around back then. I have this 100-year-old dynamite crate that I keep my stuff in. I have an old ass counter in there. I got like electrolyte things. I have like an axe in there. That's also where I fold up all my stuff. Put it in that. But then there's also a thing called an A-frame tent, which is just Just look up A-frame tent. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know
You've
what
seen
kind
one
of tent
before
it is.
because it's still a popular thing. Then you'll have a wall tent, which is an A-frame tent but wide. That's for like colonels and shit. And you have fly tents, which come off the front of a wall tent, which is it's just a canopy pretty much. That's what we have for tents. Some people have heaters in their tents, like the tents are closed off. Some people have heaters and whatnot. It gets freezing. It gets cold, obviously.
Do you guys ever
Eh.
reenact in the winter?
Yeah, like I did 2 events first. I did one out in Gettysburg, which is a parade. You can watch the parade if you want. It's Gettysburg Remembrance Day parade. You can watch it if you want. That's pretty much like reenactor version of Comic-Con. To put it that way. Like SHOT Show, but for dumbass reenactors. It's just everybody goes to Gettysburg. So whenever you're walking around, you're hearing like the fife and drum bands playing. You see reenactors everywhere, and the pubs are filled with Union officers. And I mean filled. You walk in there, and it's just a sea of blue. It's
I'm
really
so
interesting, but
sorry.
that was in the last. That was in this most recent November, and during that event, my Confederate regiment, we were the only people to sleep outside. Everybody else got hotels. It dropped down to 12 degrees. From that night, I got walking pneumonia from that night. That's how cold it was.
Did you
So
sleep at all?
we do reenactments in the winter as well as barely. Then our main space heater, because we had a space heater inside the tent, kicked off at 5 in the morning, ran out of propane. So we had to use this tiny little backup heater. Yeah.
That sucks. I'm so
I was
sorry.
freezing, dude.
And imagine original.
And then there's like the one
non-reenactors
reenactments in December and whatnot. But
did
yeah, go
not
on.
have any propane heaters.
Well, you figure back then there's a thing called winter quarters, which is you dig a 2-foot hole in the ground, then you build up a log thing around, like a little log cabin on top of that, and you have like 10 guys sleeping there, and it's not that cold.
Okay.
Still cold, but not super cold, because body heat and whatnot. But we can't do that, obviously.
Yeah.
We can't go chop down a fucking tree and dig a hole and whatnot, because we do a lot. Most of the stuff is on national parks or state parks.
Okay, continue. Sorry for our.
You got more questions? Well, let me say something. Right now, just first off, right now it's the off season. Winter's generally the off season. So, like, Remembrance Day Parade, or what I was just talking about, that's like the last big event of the year. And then you'll have a small event every now and then, maybe like until about March. Yeah, until about March. Then it picks up again.
So March it picks back up.
Got
So
another
it's
question?
literally
Yeah.
a month after tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because this is currently January 31st.
Indeed.
So I don't have any more questions. Dank probably has some.
Mhm.
And if you just want to talk about something that's
I just wanted to hear stories, motherfucker. That's all.
You want to hear stories? Okay, I'll hear some stories. A cannon
this
plus
is a fucking
magnesium.
podcast. We kind of need something interesting, regardless of whether it was good or bad.
You know, I was talking about the 20th Pennsylvania earlier with their this, that, and the other thing. Well, they have.
Mm-hmm.
They're one of the only infantry regiments that has a cannon. They have a 3/4 scale Parrott gun, which look up Parrott gun. It's PAROTT. Look it up. It'll be the one on wheels, not the giant mounted one. You'll see what I mean. They have that, okay. And what they did one night is one of the guys had magnesium, and so it was out in the field. We went out there. It was a small event in the middle of nowhere, so why not? They put in the gunpowder. So let me first let me explain these blank cartridges they have. They have wrapped in tinfoil. They have a few ounces of gunpowder. Then you'll have 1/3 gunpowder, 2/3 sawdust, because sawdust explodes. That's what you'll have wrapped in tinfoil, and you call it the death cartridge. So they did that, but instead of sawdust, they did half powder, half magnesium. So when I fired it, I immediately thought I had died and gone to heaven, because you hear boom, and then your ears are ringing because more powder and whatnot, and all you see is white. All I saw was white. That's all I saw for a solid.
So
40
you made
seconds.
the world's biggest flashbang, in other words.
Yes. And when I woke back, when I regained my vision, I was on the ground 10 feet from where I was standing. I don't know how I got there. And I got up and I looked to my left and I see everybody else just dazed as going, on the ground because they're fucking blinded.
This is basically CSGO Civil War edition.
Yeah, and we decided it's probably best not to do that ever again.
Or at least do like 1/4 magnesium, 3/4 black powder.
We decided it's still the best idea not to do that ever again.
Oh,
But
no, I
then,
think you should definitely do that in the middle of a reenactment.
No, what you need to do is do that.
No, instead,
New Jersey.
we have this other thing that we do with General Houck's artillery. He's Confederate, and he has about 3 field pieces and a mortar. They have a mountain howitzer, which is just a cannon, but kind of shorter barrel, thicker. I can't really explain it. But what we do at night with that thing is we do a thing called Dragon's Breath.
Ooh.
It's kind of like Dragon's Breath on a shotgun, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but it's a lot of gunpowder and a lot of kerosene. That's what we do. And it shoots out a good 30-foot flame. And it's loud as which is fun. But really, though, the cannons are no joke with reenactments. There was this guy who they loaded this cannon and they fired. But as they fired, another cannon went off and they thought theirs went off because you don't look at the cannon when you fire. And so but their cannon misfired. But they didn't know. This guy walked in front of his cannon and then it went off. It blew a hole in his chest that was about the size of a dinner plate.
Wait, this is a reenactment?
Killed him instantly. That's what happened at a reenactment once.
What year?
The cannons are no joke. The cannons will murder your ass.
Was that
Yeah.
without like an
That
actual
is-
cannonball? That was just like the
That's just from the powder burning off
wow.
and the explosive force coming out the barrel.
Wow.
That's what that was from. Blew a dinner plate sized hole in his chest and killed him.
Well,
And if you're not careful, if you load your, he didn't survive, obviously. But same thing with your musket. That it shoots about 5 feet of flame when you fire your musket. Whenever you fire your musket, you put in your new powder first, and then you take the old percussion cap off because of possible unburnt powder and air getting in there. So there's this one. I watched this happen, by the way. This guy pulled the percussion cap off first, then put his powder down the barrel, which sometimes it'll be fine. It's very rare for something to happen. While his hands were still over it, it went off, blew off 2 of his fingers.
oh man. So
So
they're
if you're-
basically, like
if-
without a projectile, they're basically like plasma rifles.
Pretty much for like 5-6 feet with the muskets.
Wow.
It's dangerous. It's really dangerous.
In other words, watch out for Alec Baldwin.
Yes. In other words, watch out for Alec Baldwin, especially when on that 28th Pennsylvania I was telling you about earlier. They keep a live round with them, one with a shot in it. They keep it with them to show people. So don't let Alec Baldwin use the cannon. But I got more funny stories. So don't let him. Or yeah, you can put him in front of the cannon. Just don't let him fire the cannon. Whatever you do. And I got more stories. One time, we were
Put him in the cannon and launch him through the air like Sea of Thieves.
I was thinking
Exactly
that, but I
my
wasn't gonna say it.
You gotta send that man to the north. You see that mountains way over yonder? Send Alec Baldwin. That's how it is.
Yeah, we're just going to load Alec Baldwin onto the ship, load him into the cannon, and then use them to invade other ships.
Load Baldwin.
Give him a blank
Sir,
firing
what do you mean,
gun and
sir?
be like, hey,
I mean, load Baldwin. Sir, what do you mean? See that man over there? Load him in the cannon.
Load him! Just load his ass!
Load Baldwin.
Load him into
Fire.
the cannon.
Oh, Lord.
Anyway, another story. This one could have gone really badly, really fast, but
But it didn't.
one day at a reenactment, one guy, his musket wasn't firing, and he ended up accidentally loading it 3 times. So he has about 360 grains of powder in there. Which the measurement of black powder is different from the measurement of gunpowder. That's a lot of black powder.
Yeah.
And he decided, after the battle was over, I'm going to put some more in there. Just one more. Anyway, he puts more in. We gather around. We're expecting him to blow up. He puts it down to his waist. He makes sure he just has his hands on the bottom of it. On the bottom of the gun. He pulls the hammer back, sets the trigger, fires, okay? This thing rockets back 40 feet and breaks a fence. The stock gets completely f***ed up and broken, dude.
Oh, yeah. What
the stock got all f***ed up. It was the funniest thing. 3 seconds after it happened, it was the funniest thing. But those 3 seconds, it was scary.
Was it just all in slow motion?
Because 1 second, he's holding the rifle. No, 1 second, he's holding the rifle. The next second, there's a loud bang, and the rifle's just gone. It's just not there anymore.
Everybody's
It's
like
simply gone.
themselves for shrapnel. They're like, do I have a hole in my chest right now?
That's what it was. And somehow the guy
rifle's
didn't get his hand
teleported.
blown off. I don't know how. And then, 3 seconds after, we just heard the dunk and the split of wood. So, we all start looking, and we see a fence completely knocked down with the gun just completely f***ed up.
That's terrifying.
So was it just the stock fucked, or was the barrel fucked too?
The barrel was a bit bent.
I was about to
And
ask.
stuff with
I didn't
dirt.
expect it.
Because what
I
happened
didn't
is
expect the barrel to just.
it hit the fence
One of us is
with
gonna
the
continue.
stock first, and it flipped over, and the barrel smacked into the ground and got dug in there by like maybe half a foot.
Some of these
Makes sense.
guys,
Yeah, I didn't expect it to like. I didn't expect it to just like. Do you remember on Looney Tunes with stuffing a carrot down the barrel and it just
And
shrimped out like that? Yeah, I didn't expect that to happen, but I felt like I had to ask anyways.
Exactly, man.
So it sounds like some of these reenactors guys, very small number, don't have.
Or idiots. Yeah. Yeah. Just yeah. I have no further elaboration on that. Just yeah. But everybody's
Yeah.
dumb at some
Refuse to
time.
elaborate.
Yeah. So a decent amount, no, actually though, a decent amount of reenactors are veterans.
Really?
Yeah. Because believe it or not, it actually helps them with their PTSD if they have it.
Wow.
Because it helps them realize that not every loud noise is going to murder you. So that way, every time they hear a loud noise, they don't immediately hit the deck. You know?
Yeah. Have you ever seen
And
like medieval reenactments? Because I remember I was watching a video on that.
Crazy. That
Yeah, I
shit's
remember I was
crazy,
watching a
dude.
video on it, and that's talking about how like it's mostly veterans that love that shit because it just gives them a way to just like go beat
Yeah.
each other.
That looks like it's fun. Honestly, it looks like it's really fun.
Yeah. Dude, I'd do that shit.
Ooh. Yeah, let me tell you another story that also could have gone really wrong. So Battle of Cedar Creek. It's like it's the second biggest reenactment. This is down in Winchester, Virginia. What happened there? So it's kind of like the story where the kid stepped out in front of the cannon and blew his chest out. But so after you fire the cannon, you have this pole. It's like a ramrod, but it has a sponge on the end. Or it's like a cloth sponge that you dip in water and you ram it down the barrel. So, and when you do that, you ram it down and let go immediately. And they did that. And it launched, the cannon fired, apparently didn't go off before that, and it launched the rod through the air all the way across the battlefield.
Yeah, I imagine the
didn't have
cannon
any
is kind of
ballistics
good at
to
sending
it.
projectiles.
Yeah, it just kind of twirled through the air at like several hundred miles an hour, you know? So like, imagine you're in the line, you're chilling, and you're like, what the fuck is that thing flying through the air?
As
You
you
know?
see essentially a fucking mop fly through the air.
Pretty much, you just see a mop just wait. That's what you're seeing, you know? I have another story that my captain did. This shit was fun. I wasn't there to see this. It was Gettysburg, him and his company. So everybody in his company is pretty much falling back, like getting knocked down. He told his commander, everybody's dead. We have to fall back now. So they went to retreat and they got surrounded. So then my captain and his commander are standing next to each other, and they're surrounded. Everybody's pointing. They're unloaded guns at them, and he's like, ah, shit, you know. And so my captain whispers to the commander, "Is your sidearm loaded?" And the commander goes, "No, it's not. What are you gonna do?" And then my captain loudly declares, "You'll never get me alive." He grabs the pistol out from his commander's belt, takes it, points it to his temple, pulls back the hammer, and pulls the trigger. Pretends to kill himself. It apparently, the entire Union line around him just busted up laughing and started falling to the ground. It sounds like it was really. He tells it better than I do, obviously, because he was there. He tells stories a hell of a lot better than I can.
Well, good thing it wasn't loaded, or otherwise you'd have
But
a laser hole through his head.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, he would have Alec Baldwin himself.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be here no more. His brain would be over yonder. But shit like that. Unfortunately, I have no whiskey.
Unfortunately, whiskey is out. Alright. Dude, I got a bottle of Jameson. I got a tiny ass bottle of Jameson, right? And you know how like a fifth of whiskey is like a normal size, and how they'll have like the 375 bottles that are like plastic. Well, Jameson's different. Jameson decided that they're like half pint bottles were going to just be they're in the shape of a fucking beer bottle.
I see.
I have a bottle of whiskey. I have a 12-ounce bottle of whiskey that just looks like a bottle of beer.
Yeah. Before I
First
go
off,
into
it
this
makes me feel
story-
like a giant. Second off, it makes me feel like an alcoholic.
Yeah. The most. So, let me go about the most I've ever drank. It was at a reenactment in September. There's an old army vet there. He used to be an officer. He's one of the nicest guys. He brought in whiskey because their regiment was new to the brigade. So he brought in whiskey, like their official whiskey, like the regiment's official whiskey, which they have official items with that regiment that they have like these favorite items that were around during the Civil War.
So what's their official whiskey?
I forget what it was called, but
It's not Jack Daniels.
it's not
Is it?
Jack. It's some other
Hopefully not Maker's Mark.
some other brand. I don't know what.
Maker's Mark is
It
trash.
wasn't Maker's Mark. It was something I've never heard of though.
Are you being sarcastic?
It wasn't one of those like mainstream ones.
No, hang
Wasn't
on,
one of those
hang
brands.
on. I don't mean to interrupt you, but this
You're good.
just said something. Do you actually mean that Maker's Mark is trash when you said that, or are you just with me?
No, I mean it's good for like the first 6 months, like you said, and after that it goes bad.
Yeah. So interjection. So basically, where your area of expertise is Civil War reenactment, apparently, mine is
Whiskey.
essentially old music and whiskey, particularly whiskey that I've had experience with. Maker's Mark, it's really good the first day that you open it. The second day, it's pretty good, but all whiskey goes bad eventually after you open it. With Maker's Mark, it goes bad after about 6 months. I had a bottle of Maker's that I opened, drank half of it, and a year later I decided to drink some more out of it. My God, it was the nastiest thing I ever had. And I had a fresh bottle of Maker's Mark right next to it to compare to. So I drank the fresh Makers first. I took a shot of fresh Makers, and I said, "Oh my God, that's so good. What the does this taste like?" I poured it in. I about puked, bro. It is bad. It lost all of the sweetness. It lost everything about it was just horrible. The only thing that it was bitter oak from the barrel. It had just taken over everything the else.
Interesting.
It burned my ass, man.
See,
And I got a bottle of Makers I got for Christmas. I'm trying to get it gone.
And
here I am
had a
with
bottle
James.
of whiskey go bad on me because I've always drank it before like 2 years is up, but I didn't know they could go bad at all until you told
Yeah,
me
they
about
can.
Maker's Mark.
Yeah. I've never experienced one go bad that fucking quick. See, I drink on occasion, and I don't drink to get drunk. I drink for the taste.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have several bottles just up on the shelf that I've had up there for several years now, and they're still fine. They're still fine. Makers is the only thing that I've ever had go bad on me that wasn't like a flavored liqueur, because those go bad just because it's just the juice going bad.
Yeah.
But man, I can't even describe how disappointed I was to find out that it's like this is already starting to be less sweet. It's already starting to have that bitterness take over. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's still good, and I guess if you're like a really bitter whiskey, it's good. But
I think what we need to do tomorrow night when you do the next episode together, you just need to drink it all before the podcast.
what? Come again? Because I didn't hear that.
No, I said tomorrow before we do the next episode. You just need to drink the whole entire thing just to finish it up before the podcast.
Oh yeah, it's a half a fifth. I'll drink it live on podcast. Just drink the whole half fifth. I mean, I'm gonna tell you this. That ain't even gonna get me going yet, man.
I believe you.
I know my limit.
Same.
I know my limit. See, I don't have a high alcohol tolerance. I have a low alcohol tolerance for my weight class. It's just my weight class has a high alcohol tolerance.